President, we have a national emergency.
This is one of the things that we can shoot first and ask questions later. Normally you can't do that.
All of a sudden, these trees started moving out of the way. They parted for me. And then I came out into this opening, and there where I saw Jesus Christ.
Back in 1927, an American socialist, Norman Thomas, 6 times candidate for president on the Socialist Party ticket, said the American people would never vote for socialism. But he said under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program. Is more imminent.
James Madison, in 1788, speaking to the Virginia Convention, said, "Since the general civilization of mankind, I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachment of those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations."
When men were free.
End Time Prophecy News with your host, W. Dean Shook, is on the air.
Folks, and welcome to another episode of End Time Prophecy News. I am your humble host, W. Dean Shook. Thank you for being here. In today's program, I'm going to make some enemies and I'm going to make some friends, because some people are just not going to like what I got to say today. Let me tell you who this program is for. This program is for anyone, whether you're progressive, liberal, conservative, libertarian, anyone who says that Barack Obama is a blithering, bumbling idiot, You need to hear this show today, because you may not like what I have to say. It is not Obama who is the idiot. Obama is very intelligent, very articulate, knows exactly what he's doing. We're going to explain that today. So if you're somebody that just insists that Barack Obama is a blithering idiot, you better read. And you folks in the UK, I've got just a plethora of new listeners from the UK. Welcome, everyone in the UK. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your emails. I appreciate I just can't number the number of people from the UK who have joined the program here lately in the last week or so, have become new listeners. Some of you have sent me some emails. Thank you very much for everyone in the UK. I want you to stay tuned to this show today, too. And the reason for that is because this attitude, the attitude that Barack Obama is taking, is not just for America. This is becoming a global attitude. This is being adopted, not per se exactly what he says the way he says it, but the general attitude is being accepted as a formula for change. Now, here's the problem. Change to what? Most of his minions, his followers, his disciples, are saying anything's got to be better than the way it is. And Barack Obama is going to bring that change. Is it going to be better than what it is? I see our switchboard is already jam-packed full. There's a couple of people here that are looking to talk. However, I'm not real big on taking phone calls, but I may weed through some here and there through the show and screen them and see if there's anybody worthy of being on this caliber of a program. If you're not worthy, of course, I'm not going to bring you up. You're welcome to just call in and listen. A lot of people do that. The number 760-283-4605, 760-283-4605. Everyone's welcome to call and listen anytime you like, and of course, always on Stitcher. I'm going to screen a few of these calls before we start our discussion. I'm going to give some kudos to our sponsors, who are the lifeblood of this program. You can find them on the webpage at wdeanshook.com. And you can always email me at contact@wdeanshook.com. In the meantime, let me take this short beginning break here. Let me screen a couple calls. We'll come right back and start this discussion that may tick a few of you off. Sorry about that. So stay tuned. You're going to want to hear the truth about this whole thing.
You're listening to W. Dean Shook, In Time Prophecy News and Current Events. Stay tuned. Now hear our program on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, Kindle Fire, and more. It's on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Professional identity thieves constantly search your information for vulnerabilities. At LifeLock, relentless protection of your identity is their primary mission. They help ensure that you stay ahead of identity thieves. LifeLock is first in the industry to offer proactive identity theft protection. They're Level 1 compliant under the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. They have direct access to fraud resolution teams within their extensive network of lenders and service providers. They are experts through leadership with internationally recognized experts in privacy and security, technologies, fraud, and criminal methods. They also partnership with FBI law enforcement and the National Organization for Victims Assistance. Sign up today at wdeanshook.com and receive a 30-day free trial and 10% off your final purchase. The W. Dean Shook program has partnered with LifeLock to make sure your identity remains safe and secure, guaranteed. Get your 30-day free trial of LifeLock's industry-leading protection at wdeanshook.com. That's wdeanshook.com.
GoDaddy offers everything you need to make a name for yourself on the web, from domain names and website builders to complete e-commerce solutions. We've earned our place as the world's #1 accredited domain registrar by delivering world-class products at competitive prices and support them with industry best services delivered 24/7, 365. We're proud to serve our customers from locations around the world. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com and get your domain name as low as $5.99 a year. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com. Go, Daddy. Go, Daddy.
All right, I'm going to screen a couple more calls here. Give me just a minute. In the meantime, we're going to have Georgia Red explain to us what our battle cry should be. I'll be right back. Whatever you do, don't go away. Tell us, Georgia Red.
Hey, Georgia Red, man. You real? You know, I've been getting real sick and tired of the way things are around here, man. Yeah, me too. Looking at the enemy, man, and all the things that he's stolen from us, man. You know, it's just time to fight back, man. You with me? You with me on that one? Come on, man, let's go. This is my battle cry. 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 And that's the reason why. And I refuse to fall. No matter what comes my way, I will fight in Jesus' name. This is my battle cry. 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 And I surrender all. And I refuse to fall. No matter what comes my way, I will fight in Jesus' name. This is my battle cry. Lord is land. Get on my knees and I'll raise my hands. Raise my fist, stuff and sand. And I will not be afraid of man. I ain't worried about a thing, cause the server got the brains that are just and the unjust. And I'm in my house and my peace and my family. And God is just trust. And I'm a bust and demons in the head. Leave them in the blood of the red and sitting in that bed. And I won't stop till the demons bleeding. And I won't stop till the demons screaming. I'm covered in the blood of the one begotten Son. Who shed his blood for us to show the world his righteous love. This is my battle cry. This is my battle cry. This is my battle cry. And that's the reason why. And I refuse to fall. No matter what comes my way, I will fight in Jesus' name. This is my battle cry. Hey man, I need you to show me what you got, brother. I got sick and tired of the way things are, man. And I know you got that fire, man. Why don't you come on, hit me something one time? Do it, man. Devil better be scared. Say no way for you, let him mess with us. Put him in the fire. I got no desire to go burn to hell. Child of the light, yeah, that's where I swear. Lord, raise me up up above the sin. We wage war and we bound to win. Whose side you on? Yeah, pinky tickets. I run with angels, keep close to me. Like cancer see through the lies and hate. I give it all to God. Join hands and pray for a simple world that is lost away. He called me up, reborn and saved. I surrender all, cause I know we died upon the cross when they pierced his side. Every drop that fell, every breath he took, it was to save my life. This is my battle cry. This is my battle cry. This is my battle cry.
allowing me that break. I appreciate it so very much. And what's our battle cry for today? The battle cry as we go through this program, and I'm going to tell you all through the program, is unity. Unity, unity. This is our only savior to this Barack Obama barrage of community organizing, and that is unity. Without unity, we will be controlled and finally taken over by this philosophy of community organizing through Saul Alinsky and this whole idea behind this whole thing. We're going to start with a little bit later in the program. Have you noticed? And I'm sure you have, and it probably made you notice what's been going on in the past too. Did you see when Benghazi came up? And they really started pushing for it in Congress and in the House. They started pushing, we want answers, we want answers. Well, he wanted Benghazi to come up. This is one of the crises that he's hoping will bring about the crisis that will bring this change. However, it got a little bit too hot. So what did he do? Immediately, for some reason, out of a crack somewhere, it was leaked that the IRS had been targeting. Then they started lying about that. And as soon as they started lying about that, this was a brand new controversy designed to take the attention away from Benghazi. And it did a little bit, but not enough. Next thing you know, Benghazi's right on top of it. Now there's two, and they're dealing with both of them at the same time. They said, yes, we're going to get to the bottom of this IRS garbage, and we're going to also get to the bottom of Benghazi. We're going to nail you on both of them. Well, at that point, it really started heating up a little bit too much, so what did they do? They threw out the AP scandal. Crisis number 3, hoping that it would take away from Benghazi first and from the IRS second. Benghazi was the point. They wanted to get away from Benghazi. Then what does he do? Barack Obama, lies about this whole thing. I heard about it on the news. And then after, here's a good example of exactly how indoctrinated his disciples are. His disciples seem to think for some reason that it's okay for all of this stuff to happen, and that what he really needed was just a distraction, just another distraction. Well, how did that work? Not very well, huh? We're going to start with this latest immigration plan, because I think the immigration plan was designed to fire people up. You know, he's been waffling on this issue of immigration for the last 4 years. He promised in the first election he was going to have, quote-unquote, comprehensive immigration reform. But he never did anything about it. He didn't move that direction. He didn't talk about it. They pull out their list of excuses as to why they didn't do that. Well, he gets in his second term, and all of a sudden he brings this up. Well, this is one of these points where he's proving that he's a true disciple of Saul Alinsky. And we're going to talk about these methods of Saul Alinsky. You know, when I just mentioned the Benghazi, IRS, the AP scandal, then he comes out with these new rules on drones where they say, yes, we have, through collateral damage, actually killed Americans. We didn't intend to do that. This is a constant, nonstop crisis. And it's just recently that some of you have actually opened your eyes and seen that his entire presidency has been nonstop crisis. Well, this is all Saul Alinsky methods. Saul Alinsky, in case you don't know, he is the founder of community organizing. His philosophy is based on deceit and lying to anyone, a basic lying force to change the fundamental foundation of America. Alinsky's doctrine states that an organizer works in and for an open society, does not have a fixed truth. Everything to him is relative and changing. Now listen closely to this and pay attention, and you're going to see a pattern of everything that Barack Obama is doing is right along with this, and I'm going to prove that he's an expert in this and he's implementing this perfectly. You know, he taught, he lectured, he's been involved in this ever since he was a pup in Kenya and Indonesia. How do you like that? So this doctrine says that an organizer works in and for an open society. Everything to him is relative and changing. All change means disorganization of the old and organization of the new. Now, Obama's employment before becoming president included organizing the Chicagos for some 5 years after graduating from Columbia University. Alinsky defined a community organizer as a revolutionary, a progressive, for whom deception of the populace is permitted, especially of the unthinking populace. So if you're one of these people that think that he is a blithering, bumbling idiot and he has no idea what he's doing, you are one of these unthinking populace. But only to a degree. It doesn't mean you're lost. The ones that are lost are the ones that buy into everything he says non-stop, and they will defend him no matter what he says or what he does. These are the true unthinking populace. His campaign for presidency, his re-election, were based on the concepts of change in accordance, he didn't say this, but it's in accordance with his Alinsky-style training on class warfare. He has been appealing to the entitlement takers. The president's using Alinsky tactics in addressing the immigration issue. After dragging his feet on these promises for the last 4 years, he's now starting to make noises that he wants to start changing this. Now, whether he really believes in comprehensive immigration reform, I think is open to debate. I think what he really wants to do is just cause another division. Now, it's possible that CIR is part of the grand strategy for social change. He's enlisting the help of the feminist social agenda, the Hispanics, the artless young people. You know, another possibility is that he doesn't really want CIR, you know, comprehensive immigration reform, and that these puny little efforts are just enough to appease Hispanics and trying to rupture the Republican Party. Either way, this is all garbage. Immigration reform has evolved into an effort to change America. And, you know, thanks to Obama's radical left money people, among them George Soros, Obama's been successful in bringing about change without accountability. Thanks to an adoring press and an indifferent electorate. Now, I heard somebody earlier today say something about some of the Main Street alphabet networks are coming out against Obama. But you haven't heard from NBC or MSNBC. Well, do you know why that is? It's because MSNBC just hired David Axelrod as a news consultant. Now, if you don't know who David Axelrod is, you see him on the Sunday morning talk shows. He is an ardent defender of Barack Obama. In fact, this guy can't get his lips off of Barack Obama's butt long enough to say anything that's not praiseworthy of Obama. This is a direct link between MSNBC, NBC, and the White House. This is why, and this is proof of the White House influence in media, is because MSNBC and NBC have not said anything derogatory about Obama or his administration because Axelrod is in between them. He is the news consultant for this network. Now, the American people and the Republican legislators who have really offered no resistance. Not, or at least none that's made any difference. You know, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians try to hold Obama's minions in check, but they failed. They have failed. And that's because there's been some crafty stonewalling. There's been some sleight of hand maneuvers by the president. All of these are Saul Alinsky methods. You know, what happened with Fast and Furious? It went by the wayside. Nothing ever happened about that. And why? Because as soon as Fast and Furious came up and it started getting hot, too hot, and he seen it wasn't going the direction he wanted to go, he started another one, and another one, and another crisis, and another crisis, and another crisis, and another crisis, because he's searching for that crisis that will allow him to bring about change that he couldn't otherwise make. Rob Emanuel said it best, never let a good crisis go to waste. They are looking for a good crisis, not just a regular crisis. And they're going to keep throwing pebbles in the lake until finally something happens that allows them to have that crisis. Fast and Furious was a good example of a ramping up of these crises coming in at even a faster pace. You know, the Department of Agriculture Secretary has been working with the Mexican government to make food stamps, electronic benefits, and other benefit programs available to illegal aliens who are here in the United States. When it comes to this immigration reform, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there are organizations that are making millions and millions and millions of dollars every time somebody signs up for food stamps or welfare, any kind of federal stimulus program that's giving money to private citizens. And if they can get illegals to sign up for these benefits, then these people that process these, they charge anywhere between 85 cents and $2.50 per transaction. So the more people that they can get to sign up for these benefits, the more money they make. They want millions and millions and millions of people to be on government benefits because they're making just a plethora of money on this whole thing. And they've been working to make sure that these illegals can get these benefits. You know, I've told you folks this before. I'm broadcasting from Oregon. I'm just a little bit south of Portland, Oregon. And here in Oregon, it's illegal to give these benefits to people who are in this country illegally. But they get by that. They bypass that by just saying, well, we're not giving it to any illegals. You say, well, this whole line that's going around the block here are all illegals. I mean, this little Mexican guy who claims that his name is Mildred McGuire, obviously he's not Mildred McGuire. They say, well, yeah, but we don't ask them their immigration status. We don't ask them if they're in this country illegally. Because if they do, then they won't be able to give them benefits. So while it is illegal to give these people benefits, they just simply don't ask. Don't tell us. You know, if you're here illegally, or if they start to say, well, I'm originally from, they say, stop, don't tell me, or I won't be able to help you. Well, the federal government's doing the same thing. Because people are making, big corporations are making big money from this, big money. And, you know, there's also a taxpayer-funded DOA abuse with the hiring of Samuel Bentons, who was paid $3.5 million for providing sensitivity training to DOA and Department of Defense personnel. This guy ridicules the United States by making attendees at training sessions repeat these words. Pilgrims were illegal aliens. Pilgrims were illegal aliens. They tell them that U.S. government agencies discriminated against minorities. U.S. lands were acquired from Mexico illegally. This is what they're telling them. This is being taught. So you see, it's not only our education system that's really indoctrinating. The federal government themselves are perpetuating the very idea that America is bad. You know, Obama's Attorney General refuses to do his duty to enforce immigration laws. Instead, the Obama administration uses prosecutorial discretion and deferred deportation because they want this. Kaiser Health News reported on February 12th that Medicaid paid $2 billion in free emergency room coverage for illegal aliens. Most of the coverage was for the birthing of anchor babies. Children born in the United States of mothers here illegally. In addition to these Medicaid payments, Medicare was paying $91.6 million for other medical services being offered to illegal aliens. And they say, yeah, come on in. It's free. It's not free. We're paying for it. It's not free. And Obamacare is going to pick up health care insurance for 27 million uninsured people. But this number is more likely to be a lot bigger as illegal aliens are brought into the program. Now, because, most of these illegals make pretty low wages. And companies, businesses, especially the big businesses across this country, are now dependent on this low-skilled, low-wage labor. They don't want to hire Americans who are going to demand breaks and reasonable hours and a decent paycheck that they can live on. They say, well, we don't want you. We want the illegal aliens because they live 8 or 10 in an apartment. They pool their money. They send half home and send the other half paying to live here. They like that. They like the low-wage mentality. In last February, a poll by Reuters shows that 30% of Americans believe most illegal aliens should be deported. 23% believe all illegal aliens should be deported. Well, what's the argument we hear on that? It's that you can't round up 11 million illegals. Well, it's been 11 million for the last 5 years. Let's start telling the truth here. That number has at least doubled. And you don't have to round them up and deport them. So the libtards come out and say, well, it's just a fact that self-deportation doesn't work. Well, it worked very well in 2008. In 2008, when the job market crashed and there were no jobs to be had, there was a mass self-deportation. When the jobs were gone, they went home. They don't want to be Americans. They want to come here and work. That's it. They don't want to be Americans. They don't want to assimilate. They don't want to learn the language. They just want to come here and work and take American jobs, and they're doing it illegally. They self-deported in 2008. That's the proof it does work. So when the libs and progressives come out and say that self-deportation thing doesn't work, they're lying to you. It's a barefaced lie because it worked very well in 2008 when there were no jobs to be had. They went home. In February, Obama invited John McCain and Lindsey Graham to the White House to discuss comprehensive immigration reform. And, of course, nothing was accomplished. Now, keep this in mind because as we go through the program, you're going to see this is part of the strategy. You may have talks, but it's not going to be meaningful. And the idea behind this whole thing is to have no meaningful conversation with your opponents. That's part of the Saul Alinsky rules. So keep in mind that at the same time that Obama is saying that he wants this immigration reform, sequester for releasing immigration detainees. Well, why didn't they release anybody else? They do that locally and statewide too. It's the same thing. When they have a budget issue, did you ever notice instead of cutting all of the extravagant expenditures for government, instead they want to cut police and fire, and of course they have to start releasing people out of jail. Well, even locally, city and statewide across this country, they're releasing the illegals. Now, what kind of message is that sending? What is the message there? And blame the sequester for that. I think that's an outrage. Well, let me give you a little history. Because, Barack Obama, when he took office, has started when he first took office, started filling his cabinet with people who think the same way he does. And that includes Attorney General and Rob Emanuel and Bernanke and John Brennan. What about John Brennan? You know, let me play you a clip of John Brennan. And for those of you that don't know, John Brennan was in an official capacity in Saudi Arabia when he was converted to Islam by the Saudi government. People say, well, the Saudi government didn't do that. Well, the Saudi government did do that. And despite what you say, this was a official who was in an official capacity in a foreign country who was converted to Islam. Listen to his views now.
Our enemy is not terrorism because terrorism is but a tactic. Our enemy is not terror because terror is a state of mind. And as Americans, we refuse to live in fear. Nor do we describe our enemy as jihadists or Islamists because jihad is a holy struggle, a legitimate tenet of Islam.
It's a legitimate tenet of Islam. So we don't call them jihadists because that's a legitimate tenet of Islam. This is now the director of the CIA. The director of the CIA who says that jihad is a legitimate tenet of Islam. Why did he put him in charge of the CIA? More than that, why was he confirmed? You know, this political correctness stuff is just out of control. Well, let me give you some history here. Obama has lived and breathed this community organizing Alinsky theories since he was very young. He is an expert in this. He is taught on Alinsky methods. He knows it very, very, very well. Now that he was elected as president, he's able to initialize and put into place all the things that he's taught on, believed in for a lot of years. He taught on theories and methods for years. In '85, he started working as a community organizer for Alinsky called Developing Community Projects. Look this up if you don't believe. Developing Community Projects. This is a Saul Alinsky organization. And at the same time, he was building coalitions across black churches in Chicago. Obama was criticized for not attending church and decided to become an instant Christian. This is what we call Christian in name only. Somebody who carries a bag that says, I'm a Christian on it, but when you open it up, there's nothing in it. It's clearly not a Christian. He then helped fund the Alinsky Academy. Obama was a paid director of the Woods Fund, which is a nonprofit organization used to provide a startup funding and operating cap for the Midwest Academy, which teaches the Alinsky tactics of community organizing. He sat on the Woods Fund board with Bill Ayers, as we know, is from the Weather Underground. This guy's a terrorist. Now, here's important. Not only him, but Hillary. When she was a student at Wellesley in 1969, she interviewed Saul Alinsky. She wrote her college thesis on Alinsky's theories and methods. She said in her thesis, this is a quote out of her thesis, Alinsky is regarded by me as the proponent of dangerous scenario political philosophy. As such, he's been feared, just as Eugene Debs or Walt Whitman or Martin Luther King has been feared, because each embraced the most radical political faith, democracy. That's from her thesis. Alinsky offered Hillary a job when she graduated from Wellesley. But she decided to go to Yale Law School instead. That's where she met Clinton. Let me be a quote from Rules for Radicals, page 113. This is Barack Obama's guidebook, his instruction manual. Page 113. From the moment the organizer enters into a committee, he lives, dreams, eats, breathes, sleeps only one thing. That is to build the mass power base of what he calls the Army. Until he has developed the mass power base, he confronts no issues. He confronts no issues. So think about this for a minute. When the last 4 issues came up, what happened? Fast and Furious. He talked about it, but he wouldn't do anything about it. What about in Benghazi? When he said, we will search these people out, find them, and bring them justice. And then it was swept under the rug. He will confront no issues. What about when the IR scandal came up? He heard it on the news with everybody else. He didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't know because he confronts no issues. What about when it came up about AP? I didn't know anything about that. Somebody else had done that. I didn't know anything about that either. Why? Because he confronts no issues. What about all these other things that come up where he confronts no issues? Page 59 says, but to the organizer, compromise is a key and beautiful word. It's always present in the pragmatics of operation. It's making a deal, getting that virtual breather, usually the victory. If you start with nothing, demand 100%, compromise for 3%, and you're 30% ahead. Now look, there's an old military strategy that holds true today, and that strategy is this. You need to know your enemy. You need to know your enemy better than they know themselves, so that when you do something or when something happens, you can predict with accuracy what their reaction is going to be before they react. You have to know your enemy. Through this program, you're going to know the Saul Lynch methods used by not only Barack Obama, but through his entire administration that he has set up under him, who believes the same way he does. This is going to be vitally important that you understand who and what this guy is. And like I said in the beginning of the program, what's most important here is what the community organizer hates the most: unity. Unity. What happened with gun control? It went down the tubes because Americans were united on this. Americans stood up and they said, you want my guns? Come and get them. They said, whoa. All right, obviously everybody's on the same page with this. We can go take the guns from everybody no matter what. Let's move on to the next one. Why did they move on to the next one? Because we had unity. Unity is our only salvation from this. We'll take a short break here. I'll be right back.
You're listening to W. Dean Shook, In Time Prophecy News and Current Events. Stay tuned.
Professional identity thieves constantly search your information for vulnerabilities. At LifeLock, relentless protection of your identity is their primary mission. They help ensure that you stay ahead of identity thieves. LifeLock is first in the industry to offer proactive identity theft protection. They're Level 1 compliant under the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. They have direct access to fraud resolution teams within their extensive network of lenders and service providers. They are experts through leadership with internationally recognized experts in privacy and security, technologies, fraud, and criminal methods. They also partnership with FBI law enforcement and the National Organization for Victims Assistance. Sign up today at WDeanShook.com and receive a 30-day free trial and 10% off your final purchase. The W. Dean Shook program has partnered with LifeLock to make sure your identity remains safe and secure, guaranteed. Get your 30-day free trial of LifeLock's industry-leading protection at WDeanShook.com. That's WDeanShook.com.
GoDaddy offers everything you need to make a name for yourself on the web, from domain names and website builders to complete e-commerce solutions. We've earned our place as the world's #1 accredited domain registrar by delivering world-class products at competitive prices and support them with industry-best services delivered 24/7, 365. We're proud to serve our customers from locations around the world. Sign up now at WDeanShook.com and get your domain name as low as $5.99 a year. Sign up now at WDeanShook.com. Go, Daddy. Go, Daddy.
Don't worry about your food supply when a disaster hits. At Buy Emergency Food, their focus is to provide families and individuals with the highest quality food storage available, along with the most effective survival gear online. Hi, I'm W. Dean Shook, and our friends at Buy Emergency Food is so confident that their prices can't be beat. They'll match any competitor's online prices of any product they offer. They've searched far and wide to find the most superior quality products available. Buy Emergency Food is 100% committed to providing these high-quality items at the best prices online. Sign up today at WDeanShook.com for their gourmet taste, easy storage, 25-year shelf life, nutritional information, water filtration, and a portable solar power. Come see why Buy Emergency Food is simply the best brands for providing the basic needs when disaster strikes. And they have free shipping on every order. Nothing's easier than their free shipping policy. That's right, 100% free shipping. Your emergency food is usually shipped within 3 business days. It's fast, effective, and free. Does it get any better than that? The food you need when disaster hits. Sign up today at WDeanShook.com. That's WDeanShook.com.
Well, thank you for letting me break. I appreciate it so much. And it gave me the opportunity to screen 2 or 3 calls, and I did find someone worthy, and that was Jeff from Chelsea, Massachusetts, who was at the marathon at the time of the bombing. Hi, Jeff, there.
Oh, Dean, how you doing? And, Dean, you know what? First off, the Lord had me and my friend go out to the marathon to warn the people and evangelize the people there, because, first off, the spiritual condition of Boston is extremely hard. Extremely. I mean, it's very, very spiritually hard. They don't want Jesus Christ. They don't want him around. They're having fun. And you know what? Also, as a leadership, God took away the protection from Boston, because when you have guys like Deval Patrick that said it has been 5 years since the Goodrich decision, that's the decision to open up Boston, Massachusetts for gay marriage, and the sky has not fallen and the ground has not opened up to swallow its inhabitants, you're cruising for a bruising. When you have an antichrist mayor like Mayor Menino, who marches in the gay pride parade almost every single year, and gave the land, pretty much gave it the land to the imam, to the Boston Islamic Center in Roxbury, Massachusetts, which, by the way, the 2 terrorists went to the Cambridge Mosque, which is a sister mosque to the Boston Islamic Center. You're pretty much cruising for a bruising, because that mosque wants to divide Israel, and when you have abortion, divide Israel, and homosexuality, your goose is cooked. And me and my friend we were by the Boston Public Library when we heard the explosions go off. The people were in a panic, pretty much.
How far away is that library from where the explosions went off?
Oh, very close, right by the finish line. Right by the finish line. So believe you me, I know that area quite well. I work near that area. And the John Hancock Tower is right by that area. And if you look at that on a map, it's all glass. And the Lord showed to me many times, and my friend, that building's going to come right down. And the means of entry, I believe, is a suitcase nuke, or in the subway system, or right beside the building. That and the Prudential building.
So both I'm sorry. Since you were there, are the stories we're hearing on the news accurately portrayed according to what you've seen since
Danny,
you were there?
Danny, I'm on the phone. Can you hang it up?
How long you gonna be on the phone?
5 minutes. Okay, go on.
That was interesting. If you were there, are the news reports that we're hearing accurate according to what you've seen?
Well, I mean, all I can say is my take on it personally. I think it was terrorists that did it because I know the area. I mean, I don't go with Alex on this one. I got a park company with Alex Jones. On this one, I did hear 2 explosions. I believe it was Muslims, plain and simple. Supported by a cell group in the Boston area, and so forth. And when the big one comes by, I believe it's going to be a joint Russian, Chinese, and Muslim venture. Myself.
Now, wait a minute, Jeff. You said that you believe that it's supported by a group that's in the area. What makes you think that?
No, an Islamic cell group. That's what Brigitte Gabriel said. An Islamic cell group. There was more than 1 or 2 or 3. I mean,
really?
Because you have to have support. You have to have support for these people. You have to have the infrastructure. You have to have the means of protecting them. I mean, you just don't do this willy nilly.
So you don't think they acted alone?
No.
So is there news, or is there rumors, or is there anything going around that area that you've heard that suggests that there's radical mosques or a support system already there?
Well, do a study on the Boston Islamic Center in Roxbury, Massachusetts. It's the biggest mosque in New England, and you can go no further than that.
Have you heard anything about that mosque being investigated or anything coming out of that mosque?
Well, that mosque was investigated in the past. I'm just saying this off the top of my head.
Right.
But you know what? I will say this before I get off the air. Security in the Boston area, most of the security is not armed. Most security is concierge. I suggested to Colonel David Hunt that the Hancock and the Prudential ought to be hardened and Homeland Security sites. You know, because of what I've talked about, and even David Hunt said after 9/11 he talked about the same thing himself, which is to harden them up. I mean, there's many people that know the same thing I do who are way smarter than I am, and because we have a Muslim communist as president. I mean, you know why Obama's doing all this screwed up stuff? It's because he's doing the bidding of Saudi Arabia. This man's a foreign-born traitor from Kenya. Federal agents need to storm the White House and put Obama in a pair of handcuffs.
Yeah. Well, I doubt that's going to happen. He has too many minutes.
I know.
Need disciples. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the call. You're welcome to call.
Have a good one.
Thank you. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Jeff called the program a few times before. We always welcome callers, especially if somebody who was there at the time. That's pretty incredible. All right. Well, when it comes to Mr. Obama, being a Muslim, there's sayings, there's rumors, there's grumblings that he was handpicked from the very beginning, and that things like the Boston bombing and other things are generated, that these are false flags. And I want to play you a clip from Joe Biden and Colin Powell, who pretty much admitted that there's going to be false flags. When Rahm Emanuel said that never let a good crisis go to waste, the reason for that is it's crisis, as we're going to get into here in a minute. It's crisis that's going to bring about this change. So Obama and his administration are constantly looking for these crises to bring about that change, and all they have to do is hit on the right one. Let me play this clip about generated crisis, and then we're going to go over some of these Saul Alinsky rules right out of his book that's going to prove to you that it's so clear. It is so clear that what Obama and his administration are doing are right out of this book, word for word, line for line, right out of this book. Listen to this clip.
A lot of tough decisions Brock's going to have to make. A lot of very tough decisions, including on foreign policy. And here's the point I want to make. Mark my words. Mark my words. It will not be 6 months before the world tests Barack Obama like they did John Kennedy. The world is looking. We're about to elect a brilliant 47-year-old president of the United States of America. Remember I said standing here, you don't remember anything else I said. Watch, we're going to have an international crisis, generated crisis, to test the mettle of this guy. He's going to have to make some really tough. I don't know what the decision is going to be, but I promise you it will occur. As a student of history, and having served with 7 presidents, I guarantee you it's going to happen. I can give you at least 4 or 5 scenarios from where it might originate.
If you were called into the Oval Office on January 21st by the new president, whoever it happens to be, and he said to you, General Powell, I need from you your recommendation on where I begin. What should be my priorities? Where would you start?
I would start with talking to the American people and talking to the world and conveying a new image of American leadership, a new image of America's role in the world. The problems will always be there, and there's going to be a crisis come along on the 21st or 22nd of January that we don't even know about right now. The problems will always be there, and there's going to be a crisis come along on the 21st or 22nd of January that we don't even know about right now.
Watch, we're going to have an international crisis, generated crisis.
There's going to be a crisis come along on the
generated crisis. Watch, we're going to have an international crisis.
There's going to be a crisis come along on the
generated crisis.
Uniquely American, isn't it? I mean, that is fantastic that you're doing that.
You see, they admit from the very beginning that they are going to generate these crises. What is the history of false flags? False flags in America, in history. Let's look at a brief history of false flags. Do you think that the Obama administration would not use a false flag? Does a false flag explain Benghazi? False flag is in, not that they did it, but that they allowed it to happen. Because that's the way it looks. They allowed it to happen. Hillary Clinton, who is also an avid follower of Saul Alinsky, says, what does it matter now? That's right out of Saul Alinsky. Let's take a look. False flags have been used through history for a long, long time by corrupt, tyrannical leaders to bring about change, to bring about power base. Nero in the Great Fire of Rome, the Roman consul and historian Dio, contemporary historian of the time, that Nero was responsible for the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. Blamed it on someone else. Legend claims Nero had one-third of the city torched as an excuse to build an arena, a 300-acre complex that included a towering statue of himself, the Colossus of Nero. Prior to the fire, the Roman Senate had rejected the emperor's bid to level a third of the city to make way for a Neapolis or urban renewal project. The Roman historians wrote that when the population of Rome held Nero responsible for the fire, he shifted blame on the Christians for hating the human race and starting the fire. Does that sound familiar? Here's another one, the Spanish-American War. By the 1800s, the U.S. was looking for an excuse to kick Spain out of Cuba. U.S. business was heavily invested in sugar and tobacco and iron. The USS Maine was sent to Havana in January of 1898 to protect these business interests for a local insurrection broke out. Sound familiar? 3 weeks later, early on the morning of February 15th, an explosion destroyed the forward third of the ship anchored in Havana Harbor, killing more than 270 American soldiers. President McKinley blamed Spain after the U.S. Naval Court of Inquiry declared that a naval mine caused the explosion. American newspapers blamed Spanish despite a lack of evidence. They said, "You furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war." William Randolph Hearst told Remington after the Illustrator reported that the situation in Cuba did not warrant invasion. A number of historians and researchers later argued the ship was blown up by the United States to provide a false flag pretext to invade Cuba and expel Spain. The United States occupied Cuba from that point from 1898 till 1902. Although an amendment to a joint resolution of Congress forbid the U.S. to annex the country, which was the goal. What about the sinking of the Lusitania? Nearly 2,000 travelers, including a third of Americans, were killed May 17, 1915, when a German U-boat torpedoed the RMS Lusitania, a luxury British ocean liner. Prior to the sinking, the German embassy in Washington issued a warning. Newspapers in the United States refused to print the warning or acknowledge the German claim that the ship carried munitions. Wilson's government issued a flurry of diplomatic protest after the sinking and exploited the tragedy 2 years later as a pretext for America to enter into the First World War. Sound familiar? Nearly 100 years later, in 2008, divers discovered the Lusitania carried more than 4 million rounds of rifle ammunition. A false flag. There were literally tons and tons of stuff stored in unrefrigerated cargo holds that were dubiously marked cheese, butter, and oysters. Greg Bemis, an American businessman who owns the rights to the wreck and is funding its exploration, reported this to the Daily Mail. What about Hitler's dictatorship and the Reichstag fire? This is a famous false flag. It was from February of 1933, a month after convincing Germany's president that parliament must be eliminated. Hitler and the Nazis instigated this Reichstag fire. Hitler then urged President Hindenburg to issue an emergency decree restricting personal liberty, including the right to free expression and free press, limitations on the rights of association and assembly, warrantless searches of homes, property, confiscation, violations of postal, telecommunications, permissible beyond the legal limits otherwise prescribed. Sound familiar? The Nazis used the decree and cracked down on their political opponents. They worked behind the scenes to force through the Enabling Act, which legally allowed Hitler to obtain planetary powers and establish a dictatorship. Later, they would admit that the people can always be brought the bidding of the leaders. That's easy. All you have to do is tell them they're being attacked, denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism, and exposing the country's danger. It works the same way in any country. This is a basic philosophy from 1933, Nazi Germany. Does that not describe what's happening today? What about the prelude to another world war, the Glowitz incident. 6 years after the Reich fire, the Nazi staged this incident. Nazi commandos raided a German radio station in Glowitz. The raid was part of an Operation Himmler, series of operations undertaken by the SS as Hitler set the stage for the invasion of Poland and the start of the Second World War. SS operatives dressed in Polish uniforms attacked the radio station, broadcast an anti-German message in Polish, and left behind the body of a German known for sympathizing with the Poles. The corpse was offered to the press as evidence that the Poles had attacked the radio station. Do I need to say any more on it? What the Lavon affair, 1954, where the Israelis activated a terrorist cell in response to the U.S. making friends with Egyptian government and its Pan Am leader, who was Gamal Nasser. The Israelis were worried that Nasser would nationalize the Suez Canal and continue Egypt's blockade of Israel's shipping through the canal. Israel's Prime Minister David Gurion decided a false flag terrorist attack on American interest in Egypt would sour the relationship. He recruited and dispatched terrorist cells that pretended to be Egyptian terrorists. The plan, however, contained a fatal flaw. Israel's top secret cell, Unit 131, was infiltrated by Egyptian intelligence. After a member of the cell was arrested, interrogated, and revealed the plot, this led to more arrests. Israeli agents were subjected to public trial, revealing details of the plan to firebomb the U.S. Information Agency libraries, a British-owned Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer theater, a rail terminal, and the Central Post Office, and other targets. In order to deflect blame, the Israeli government tried to frame its own defense minister, Panas Lavon, but the true nature of the plot was eventually made public. Another false flag. What about Operation Northwoods? Some of you might be familiar with this, targeting American citizens. In the covert war against the communist regime in Cuba under the CIA's Operation Mongoose, the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed a state-sponsored act of terrorism inside the United States. The plan included shooting down hijacked American airplanes. No, say it isn't so. It included the sinking of U.S. ships, the shooting of Americans on the streets of Washington, D.C. This outrageous plan even included a staged NASA disaster that would claim the life of astronaut John Glenn. While reeling under the embarrassing failure of the CIA's botched Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba, President Kennedy rejected the plan in March of '62. A few months later, Kennedy denied the plan's author, General Lyman Lemonitzer, a second term as the nation's highest-ranking military officer in 1963. Of course, Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas under circumstances that are still very, very unclear that we may never know the truth about. So deception, even false flags in America is not unusual. And when they go wrong, people pay with their lives. What about the Gulf of Tonkin? A lot of people know about the Gulf of Tonkin. In '64, Lyndon Johnson went on a national television, told the nation that North Vietnam had attacked U.S. ships. He said, repeated act of violence against the armed forces of the United States must be met not only with alert defense, but with a positive reply. The reply is being given as I speak tonight, Johnson declared. Congress soon passed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which provided Johnson with pre-approved authority to conduct military operations against North Vietnam. By 1969, over 500,000 troops were fighting in Southeast Asia. Does this sound familiar? Pre-approved authority to conduct military operations against North Vietnam. pre-approved authority. Do whatever you need to do. Do we see that today? Johnson and his Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, had bamboozled Congress and the American people. In fact, North Vietnam had not attacked the USS Maddox, like the Pentagon claimed. The unequivocal proof of an unprovoked second attack against the U.S. warship was a ruse. Most of these things have come from the left. Are you surprised? Following the Second World War, CIA and Britain's MI6 collaborated through NATO on an Operation Gladio, an effort to create a stay-behind army to fight communism in the event of a Soviet invasion of Western Europe. The same kind of stay-behind army that we're planning on leaving in Afghanistan. It quickly transcended into an original mission and became a covert terror network consisting of right-wing militants, left-wing militants, organized crime elements, agents of secret military units, which we would call the protective services that we now provide in the wars that we're in. These so-called stay-behind armies were active in France and Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Germany, Switzerland. This was a strategy of tension. It was designed to portray leftist political groups in Europe as terrorists and frighten the populace into voting for authoritarian governments. Now, in order to carry out this goal, these operatives conducted a lot of deadly terrorist attacks that were blamed on Marxists. Right up to today, in our recent history, in August of 1980, Gladio operatives bombarded a train station in Bologna, killing 85 people. They initially blamed it on the Red Brigade. It was later discovered the fascist element within the Italian secret police. The head of P2 Masonic Lodge were responsible for the terror attack. Other fascist groups, including Navio, were mobilized and engaged in terror. They immediately claimed the lives of hundreds of people across Europe. False attacks, false flags are not uncommon. Is there any reason to think that the administration that we're under now would not do the same thing, or even the previous administration? Obviously, anybody that's hungry for power is going to do this, and most of these false flags had the same basic ingredients. The same thing we're seeing happening today. My goodness. So what are some of these tactics that I am claiming, as some of you have said when I screened calls, that these are just claims that none of this stuff is true? Well, are you starting to put it together yet? Let me start with, let's start with out of the Book of Rules for Radicals. And this is a quote. Power is all about power relations, but to advance one's power, one must couch one's position in the language of morality. Community organizers are political realists who see the world as it is. That's an important phrase. Not only Obama or his wife Michelle, but also all of their disciples and their minions quote this phrase all the time, straight out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals: see the world as it is. They see it as an arena of power politics moved primarily by perceptive, immediate self-interest, who morally is rhetorical, rational for expedient action and self-interest. Listen for this phrase as they talk to you in the future. See the world as it is and how it should be. 2, there are 3 kinds of people in the world. This is a quote from the Rules for Radicals. These are what Barack Obama has taught for years. He has taught these methods. He knows these methods like the back of his hand. 3 kinds of people in the world: rich and powerful oppressors, the poor and disenfranchised oppressed, and the middle class whose apathy perpetuates the status quo. And that's the danger, according to them, is perpetuating the status quo, the world as it is. From this perspective, the world consists of but three kinds of people: the haves, the have-nots, and the have-a-little who want more. The haves, possessing, as they do, all of the power, money, food, security, luxury, they resist the change. They resist the change that's necessary to relieve the have-nots of poverty, like rotten housing or disease or ignorance or political impotence or despair. The have-a-little, they want more compromise, what we call the middle class. Well, Saul Alinsky believes that this group is the genesis of creativity. He also claims that it supplies the world, this middle class supplies the world with its do-nothings. The do-nothings are those who profess a commitment to social change for ideals in justice, equality, and opportunity, and then abstain and discourage all effective action for change. Now, Alinsky remarks that in spite of their reputable appearances, the do-nothings are actually I don't even know if I can go on with this. Look, what he's saying is that these people are resistant to change. These are the people that are not going to allow the change. And most of these people, most of the middle class, are people that are considered to be Christians or have a relationship with Christianity in some way or form. Let me go on with number 3. This is a quote. Change is brought about. Now, this is the one that's most important. Now, as I read this quote out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, think about Benghazi, IRS, the AP phone records, coming out with the new rules for drones because it has inadvertently killed Americans. How these things have just gone nonstop. How it's that's what I said in the beginning of the program. These are nonstop crises. Listen to this quote from Saul Alinsky's Rules from Radicals that Barack Obama was a professor and lectured and taught these very rules. And I quote, "Change is brought about through relentless agitation and troublemaking of any kind that radically disrupts society as it is. It's an organizer's passion for radical change. He must do his best to stir up dissatisfaction and discontent. He must agitate to the point of conflict. The organizer dramatizes injustices, engages in troublemaking by stirring up just those angers, frustrations, and resentments that will eventuate in the disorganization of the old and organization of the new. He is determined to give rise to as much confusion and fear as possible." This is from Saul Alinsky's Rules from Radicals, page 117 through 127. Professor Barack Obama lectured and taught these very rules for years. And now as president, he has the unique opportunity to implement every one of these. This is to dramatize injustices, troublemaking, stirring up angers, frustrations, and resentments that will eventuate in the disorganization of the old and organization of the new. He is determined to give rise to as much confusion and fear as possible. Is this what he's doing? Think about this next one. See if this doesn't apply. And I quote, "There can be no conversation between the organizer and his opponents. The latter must be depicted as being evil. If his compulsion to agitate makes it sound as if the organizer is disinclined to converse with those to whom he disagrees, That's because, well, he is. Alinsky is blunt on this point. You don't communicate with anyone purely on the rational facts or ethics of an issue. Page 89. It's true that the moral rationalization is dispensable. Page 43. That the organizer must clothe one's goals and strategy with moral arguments. But there can be no conversation with one's opponents, for to converse with them is to humanize them. The organizer's objective is to demonize those who stand in the way of his designs for change. That's why the left always is calling names, saying you're unpatriotic. This is for the children. This is for the children, and you just don't like the children. This is not about the children. This is red rum, red rum, red rum. Hey, whoa, whoa. They just go wild. They just go crazy. They call names. They call you teabaggers. They call you all kinds of things. They tell bold-faced lies. They demonize you in every single way possible. If you don't agree with their agenda, you're a flat worlder, and the list of insults just goes on and on and on and on. That's because it's direct out of the rules for radicals. Saul Alinsky and Professor Barack Obama, hand in hand, skipping through the field, singing Kumbaya, because they both believe, lecture, and teach the same thing. Alinsky asserts that changing the so-and-so into a racist bastard and then diluting this with qualifying remarks such as a good church-going man, generous to charity, and a good husband. To do that, one convicts oneself of political idiocy. The winning strategy is to pick the target, freeze it, polarize it, and personalize it. Now, those are not empty words. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. What did he do with the Catholic Church with birth control? When he tried to make Catholic Church and Catholic organizations force them into providing birth control, what did he do there? He picked the target. He said, you will provide it. He froze it. Then he said all women have the right to this contraception. He personalized it. Then he started passing executive orders or proposing executive orders and laws to make it into law. That polarized it. You see, Barack Obama is an expert in this stuff, and his minions are right along with him. And you know that because Hillary Clinton and Rahm Emanuel and everybody else that he has put under him has the exact same attitude. And they're working hand in hand to make these things come about. He is an expert in this, my friends. He is an expert, and he's doing it right under our noses. You know, when some of these things come about, and they come about in such a big barrage, and we as Americans were struggling to try to just keep our head above water and trying to keep our jobs and make as much money as possible, and most of us, not all of us, most of us are trying to be responsible. There are those who are still out there going into debt, because they're just absolutely clueless. They have no idea what's going on. Well, this program is designed to tell people what's going on. And if you are American, you'll be telling them about this strategy, about what's going on. They need to be out of debt. They need to be storing up some water and some food, and they need to be prepared for these things that are coming, because this is nonstop. He's not going to stop. And you know what? Even when he leaves the presidency, this is not going to stop him. He's going to have influence afterwards, that he is still going to push this very, very, very hard. And he's going to do the same thing that he's always done and that he's done during his presidency. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Here's another very, very important one. Now think again about Benghazi, IRS, the AP scandal. And I quote, this is from page 76 through 120 and includes one page 61. Rules for Radical, Saul Alinsky, and Barack Obama hand in hand singing Kumbaya. The organizer can never focus on just a single issue. He must move inexhaustibly from one issue to the next. The organizer must develop multiple issues. For multiple issues mean constant action and life. Alinsky explained a single issue is a fatal straitjacket that drastically limits the organizer's appeal. But multiple issues draw in many potential members essential to the building of a broad, mass-based organization. The only way to keep the action going is by constantly cutting new issues as the action continues, so that by the time the enthusiasm and the emotion for one issue has started to de-escalate, a new issue emerges with a consequent revival. This is exactly what happened with Benghazi. Exactly. In the middle of Benghazi, being hot as a popcorn fart, the IRS scandal comes out of nowhere. It seeps through some hidden crack somewhere. Benghazi hadn't even started to slow down yet. Once the IRS scandal was out there, what happened? Somehow it was leaked that they were getting the phone records from AP reporters. And people went, and now they have to deal with that, and the IRS, and the Benghazi, all at the same time. But that's not enough. Now he comes out with the new drone rule, saying, well, yeah, we had inadvertently killed Americans, but it was collateral damage. People are going, no. Why? Because the organizer must develop multiple issues. For multiple issues mean constant action in life. This has been the Obama presidency, where a single issue is a fatal straitjacket that dramatically limits the organizer's appeal, but multiple issues draw in many potential members. Essential to the building of a broad, mass-based organization, the only way to keep action going is by constantly cutting new issues as the action continues, so that by the time the enthusiasm and the emotions for one issue have started to de-escalate, a new issue has emerged with consequent revival. My goodness. I'm going to talk about a puzzle coming together. You're starting to see the picture here. Well, we're going to continue. I'm going to give you some more pieces of the puzzle. Tell me that this is not what's going on, and I quote, taunt one's opponents to the point that they label you as a dangerous enemy of the establishment. Everyone, my friends, everyone out there who is saying that he is a dangerous enemy of the establishment, while he may very well be, while everybody raising such a fuss about it, you're doing exactly what he wants. This is exactly what he wants. You're perpetuating the situation. He wants to be labeled a dangerous enemy. Here's what it says, page 100. To put the organizer on the side of the people, to identify with the have-nots, it's imperative that he maneuver and bait the establishment so that it will publicly attack him as a dangerous enemy. And he is very successful at this. Just because Obama has left behind this low-income Chicago communities started and where he agitated doesn't mean that he's left behind the skills as a community agitator that he learned from Saul Alinsky and taught and lectured on these skills. He is an expert. Rather, he now regards the country as his community to organize as he see fit. And that's exactly what he's doing. We can't fall into his plan. And when you come out here and label him as dangerous and a public enemy number one and enemy of the establishment. We're doing exactly what he plans. Now, there's a problem with this because this needs to be exposed. How do you expose this without becoming part of his plan? I don't think there's a way to do that. I don't think there's a way to expose these dangers without becoming part of his plan. I am actually becoming part of his plan by exposing who and what he is. He wants this exposure. Hopefully, we'll be able to turn this around on him and use this exposure to reveal who and what he is, and that the solution for the community organizer who needs to keep these battles going on and on and on and on is unity. The last thing the community organizer wants is unity. Unity will squash his plans. Obama always invokes American ideals. Well, he conspires to fundamentally transform us away from those very same things. He says one thing and does another. This is part of the plan. It's not because he's an idiot. This is part of the plan. In spite of what he says, he does not want national unity. There can be no unity with the people who one wants to fundamentally transform. If there is unity with the people that you want to transform, transformation will not come. We are the people that he wants to transform. The only way to stop that transformation is through unity. We had that unity through the gun control debate, where even Democrats stepped up to the plate and said, no, we're not going to do that. That was unity that stopped him in his tracks. As a result of that, his plan was not able to go through.
Divide and conquer is the
That's right. He wasn't able to divide and conquer. Thank you so much for that. He wasn't able to divide and conquer. This president regularly speaks and acts as if there's a perpetual class warfare being waged by the haves and the have-nots. And indeed, that's exactly what he does. How many times have you heard him come out in a constant, non-stop flow of saying the rich are not paying their fair share, the poor need to be helped? He's creating a class warfare. And at the same time, he's destroying the middle class. This is what he wants for Americans to believe, that there is this huge divide. It's a desire on the part that accounts for why he spares no occasion to demonize both the richest 1%, who he accused refusing to pay their fair share, as well as the Republicans who threatened to impede his plans on raising taxes. He does not want unity. He wants division. And unless he gets that division, he's not going to be able to...
Divide and conquer is the
Yes,
law.
divide and conquer. Thank you. He's not going to be able to implement his strategies if there is any kind of unity. He has to have division, class warfare, the homosexual debate, the immigration debate. All of this is divide and conquer. He needs to divide in order to conquer. And he's got all of these divisions all going at once. And he takes every opportunity to drive a wedge in there to even widen these divisions even more. Because he has to have these divisions. Without these divisions, he will have no success. We as the American people need to come together on the basic issues and show unity in order to put him in his place. Without that, we're lost. America will be lost. We as the American people, the ideas, the life, liberty, and freedom that we know will be gone if we can't come up with some unity somewhere. We have to have unity. He does not want unity. All we have to do is know and understand. We have to understand his methods. We have to understand that he is a philosopher of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. And everyone under him are his disciples. And until we understand that, my friends, We're going to be lost. There's no way for us to be able to think about what I said here. Let me take a short break. Think about what I said here. I'll be right back.
You're listening to W. Dean Shook, In Time Prophecy News and Current Events. Stay tuned. Now hear our program on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, Kindle Fire, and more. It's on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Professional identity thieves constantly search your information for vulnerabilities. At LifeLock, relentless protection of your identity is their primary mission. They help ensure that you stay ahead of identity thieves. LifeLock is first in the industry to offer proactive identity theft protection. They're level 1 compliant under the payment card industry data security standards. They have direct access to fraud resolution teams within their extensive network of lenders and service providers. They are experts through leadership with internationally recognized experts in privacy and security, technologies, fraud, and criminal methods. They also partnership with FBI law enforcement and the National Organization for Victims Assistance. Sign up today at WDeanShook.com and receive a 30-day free trial and 10% off your final purchase. The W. Dean Shook program has partnered with LifeLock to make sure your identity remains safe and secure, guaranteed. Get your 30-day free trial of LifeLock's industry-leading protection at WDeanShook.com. That's WDeanShook.com.
GoDaddy offers everything you need to make a name for yourself on the web, from domain names and website builders to complete e-commerce solutions. We've earned our place as the world's #1 accredited domain registrar by delivering world-class products at competitive prices and support them with industry-best services delivered 24/7, 365. We're proud to serve our customers from locations around the world. Sign up now at WDeanShook.com and get your domain name as low as $5.99 a year. Sign up now at WDeanShook.com. Go, Daddy. Go, Daddy.
All right, thank you for allowing me that break. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember I told you about him wanting to crash the middle class. And he's desperate to make people believe that he really cares about the middle class. After 4 years, his actions speak louder than his words because the proof is in the pudding. Words are cheap. You can say anything you want. You know, we're told in our instruction, you will know them by their fruits. You will know people by their fruits, by their actions, by the fruit that they produce. A bad tree does not produce good fruit. A good tree does not produce bad fruit. The kind of fruit that somebody produces is going to determine who and what they are. Some 85% of the middle class say they're worse today than they were 10 years ago. According to the Wall Street Journal, the time Obama took in 2009, the Obama years have been brutal on the middle class income, wiping out an estimated over $4,000 in real incomes for families. This report goes on to say, the last time incomes fell this fast was during the late 1970s under Jimmy Carter. And I think Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter have got a rival a rivalry going on here for who's going to be the worst president, Jimmy Carter or Barack Obama. You know, Obama needs to come up with something like Carter did. I don't know if anybody remembers Carter. Remember his brother Billy? And he came with Billy beer. I remember seeing Billy beer in the grocery stores, and it was just a white can. It had beer printed across it in black letters. That was Billy beer from the peanut farmer's brother. Well, it's no coincidence that the economic policies then and now are very similar. If Obama succeeds in convincing everybody that he really is for the middle class, it'll be the trick of the century. It may already be the trick of the century. There's a lot of people who think he's good for the middle class, that he wants to build the middle class. He talks about building the middle class. But the fruit that he produces, his actions doing just the opposite. The financial loss and the burdens that are imposed by Obama are greater on all workers, including black, Hispanic, Asians, white. This looming tax that's coming up in Obamacare in hidden taxes, it's just going to rip family budgets apart. And he lied about that. So the question is, why has the middle class been hit so hard by Obama? Is it an ideological grudge? Well, Obama had two radical mentors that shaped both his ideology and his policies. One was Saul Alinsky. You know, Frank Marsh Davis, who was a reported pedophile and race-monger, a stricken communist, was Obama's family friend. He was recruited by Obama's grandfather to educate young Barry in the ways of the world. It was, however, Obama's educational mentor that stressed if real power is to be gained, it must be done at the expense of the American people and the economy. Now, I wouldn't say that Obama's trying to crash the economy, but I think he will let it crash in order to get the crisis that will bring about the change, to disorganize the old and reorganize the new. And I think he's going to push it until that happens. And if that results in a crash, then so be it. You know, Alinsky wrote that the key to weaken and take over in America is the economy and its people. It's to destroy the middle class. Barack Obama taught courses on how to destroy the middle class. Use class and race warfare. Alinsky believed that wealth redistribution, which is, you know, as we already know, taken from those who work and give it to those who don't, is the catalyst to bring the U.S. economy and free market capitalism to its knees. After 4 years in office, Obama is well on his way to do just that. Alinsky's guidebook is embedded in Obama's record of economic policies, especially the middle class. Now, Alinsky began his book with a tribute to the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did so effectively that at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. Now, Alinsky championed and sought to emulate Lucifer, otherwise known as Satan. Alinsky's game plan was to lie, cheat, and steal elections in order to control the American people and bring commerce to its knees. Alinsky clearly organized the Lucifer, or Satan, is also the king of deception. And it's deception that Alinsky built his political strategy. Deception, he taught his followers, is the Trojan horse that gets you inside gates where you can then access power and retain it by any means available, no matter the cost to the people, to the government, or the nation. Again, it's deception that Alinsky has built his strategy. It's Alinsky's strategy that Obama wrote on a blackboard when he was teaching ACORN members during his days of community organizing in Chicago. You know, Alinsky also worked as a community organizer in Chicago before him. Now, it's true that Saul Alinsky preferred the teachings of Lenin, who murdered millions of people, the teachings of Mao, who also murdered millions. Mao advocated obtain power by the barrel of a gun. Lenin was more subtle by first advocating working the system and obtaining power by the vote, then using the barrel of a gun to keep it. Alinsky had no qualms about stealing the vote as a means to reach his end result, which is power. For Alinsky, deception is the key to everything. Say one thing, do another. Even change the meanings of words. Pretend to be bipartisan in order to get the upper hand. For Alinsky, that means don't matter, destroy whomever you want to get your way. Alinsky made it clear to his followers the goal is power. Now, Alinsky died before Obama could make it to his classroom. But Investor Business Daily editorial traces Obama's affair with Alinsky's radical ideology to Obama's first learned Alinsky rules in 1980. When Alinsky's radicals with the Chicago-based Alinsky group, Chamomile Foundation, recruited, hired, and trained a paid Obama as a community organizer in the south side of Chicago. This was a Alinsky organization. 1988, Obama even wrote a chapter for the book After Alinsky, Community Organizing in Illinois. He traveled to L.A. for the first days of an intense training at Alinsky's Industrial Area Foundation. In turn, he trained other community organizers in Alinsky tactics. He also Obama taught Alinsky's power analysis methods of the University of Chicago. Ed Bloomfield wrote in the New American, one of Obama's advisors during the 2008 election campaign was Peter Dreyer. Stanley Kurtz, Radical-in-Chief, credits Dreyer with formulating the stealth plan to destroy capitalism. His plan is to expand government spending until the country is near fiscal collapse. At that point, a public who's accustomed to entitlements will presumably turn on its capital masters when they propose cutbacks to reform and restore financial balance. Is this not what they're doing? Do I need to go over this again to make it clear? Let me do this again. The point is to get the public accustomed to entitlements. Because the public will turn on its capitalist masters when they try to cut it back. The one Alinsky constant learned by Obama administration is deception. This is let me give you an example of that. A full-blown cover-up from Benghazi. Fake unemployment stats that's deflecting its own deceit by accusing its opponents of lying. A trait that radical Democrats and their leader have mastered exceedingly well. And the whole time they're professing to care for the middle class. Obama's answers to lift the middle class out of the current slide into poverty is to deluge Americans with hidden taxes attached to Obamacare. Send gasoline and fuel costs soaring by denying drilling permits. Clean coal and printing of flood and devalued dollars that create inflated food costs. Joe Biden is right. For the last 4 years of Obama have buried the middle class, along with women heads of household as concurrent casualties. Obama has left at 5.5 million women unemployment, putting the poverty rate among women at 16.3%, the highest in 17 years. In the socialist playbook, black Americans are collateral damage. According to the Chicago Tribune, Failed economic policies have led to the wiping out of gains made in the last 30 years by African Americans. With plummets in wealth and high rates of foreclosures, socialism spares no race. No one is exempt from his hardships. All of you followers, you're also going to pay the price. Tony Atkins of the Conservative Daily reports that the WARN Act is a federal law requiring that most employers give 60 calendar days notice before they institute plant closing and mass layoffs. Do you remember that? The point is to give workers some time to adapt to their upcoming unemployment by looking for another job, adjusting finances, entering into new skills, or signing up for welfare and food stamps. And he puts that in moral terms by saying it's the right thing to do. But this pesky law has some bad timing consequences for the president. Funding cuts signed by Obama are about to result in an estimated 2 million jobs being lost. Obama learned his lesson well. You know, Saul Alinsky's son, David, proudly said something very interesting, and let me quote it. This is from David Alinsky, Saul Alinsky's son. He said, "I'm proud to see that my father's model for organizing is being applied successfully beyond local community organizer. Alinsky taught that the key to destroying the middle class is to create a failed economy that destroys private sector jobs and leads to powerlessness. But growing subject of layoff workers who became reliant on and controlled by the government is Alinsky's dream come to life at the destructive hands of Barack Obama, President of the United States." Thank you very much for that. If you have an ear, then hear what I'm saying. Understand what I'm telling you. Because our only solution, and I'm going to say this again and again, is unity. We have to know and understand what Barack Obama is doing as well as he knows and understands it. He is not an idiot. He's not a blithering, blundering boob. He knows exactly what he's doing. And the proof are in the headlines every single day that what I'm telling you is 100% true. 100% true. I'm out of time, folks. Come to my website, wdeanshook.com, and you can email me at contact@wdeanshook.com. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all of our new listeners through the UK and Australia, across this country. Thank you, everyone who's listening on the phone, through iTunes, through all of the other methods. Thank you very much. We'll see you on our next program. I hope that at some point you're going to consider what we talked about. Tell your friends how vitally important this is, that we know and understand what he's doing, that we know and understand how he's trying to come about.
Conquer is the
yes, divide and conquer. That's exactly what he's trying to do. Please, my friends, share this with your friends. Share this with other talk show hosts. Pass this program on to other people. In the meantime, revert back to our friend Georgia Red, who you can find his music on Amazon.com under Georgia Red, who's going to give us an important message here right now. Thank you.